Hello and welcome everybody to our podcast. This is Welcome to Livingston, where we talk to local businesses in Livingston County about what they are bringing to the community, what they are up to. My name is Don Putkela.
And I'm Angela Putkela, and we're with the Putkela Group Real Estate Professionals.
Yes, and we are so excited about today's podcast. We are welcoming in Rose and Christopher from Upkeep Games in Howell. Thank you guys so much for coming today.
Thank you for having us.
Great. You're one of our son's favorite shops, but we love that you're a small business. You sell some really unusual products, and so it'll be fun to kind of dig into some of that today.
Yeah. So actually, just to start off, for people that don't know, what is Upkeep Games?
Upkeep Games is a game store. So we sell board games. We sell miniatures games, kind of like if someone collected trains or something like that. And then we sell paints for those things as well. But one of the biggest things we sell is like Pokemon cards and Magic cards. Those are actually games that are designed to be played, but most people just know them because young kids collect them. So
no, and that's one of the big things. You know, our son does Magic the Gathering. Surprisingly, I did Magic the Gathering, and then I stopped.
Way back.
Yes, way back, and I sold all my cards.
A big mistake.
It was I had like the original ones, and I sold them in like '96.
Big mistake.
Yes. Time to time, he'll look them up, the value, and just shake his head.
Don't do that.
I am not allowed to go to, Google and look up cards.
I think everyone has a story about selling Magic cards, and the moral of the story is always don't sell Magic cards.
Yes.
It's true. I had my very own one, though, because I had a group that I was in college, and one of the people from the group was an artist, and so he actually drew the art on one of the cards. I think two of them, but I bought the one, and I did look up, and it's worth 12 cents. So unfortunately, it's the one card that really was not worth anything. Oh, well.
It's funny that Christopher says that people shouldn't sell Magic cards because the way we got the store started is that Christopher sold all of his Magic cards.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Big mistake.
But wow, look at this, though,
And that's one of the things I was going to get to later, but I guess I can jump into now. One of the things that's unique and great about like game stores and those Pokemon cards and such is people can come in and sell individual cards or trade individual cards. I'm assuming you have like a big market of, very dedicated people that's what they're coming in there to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely known as like a location where you can find a lot of the cards that you're looking for. It's impossible to keep everything in stock. A lot of them are very expensive, as you may know, or very hard to find, or just like people sometimes are surprised that we don't have the popular cards, but we don't have them because they're popular.
Right.
So people don't necessarily want to sell those cards, or everyone wants to buy those cards. So, but yeah, we definitely have people that come in looking for individual cards. And if you don't want an individual card, then people can buy packs of cards that are sealed, that are semi-randomized, and hope to get what you're looking for that way.
Or at least get some surprises.
Yeah.
I know for our son, he has certain ones that he wants, so he'll order those online. But when he wants something, they're like, well, just something new, and so those packs come in handy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, that is very cool. So you said you guys, board games, collectible cards, paints, and models for die-cast as well then, right?
I think die-cast refers to like cars, right?
Right. We
don't do just models. All of the models we sell are of games.
Okay, got ya.
So like Warhammer 40K is one of those. We have a couple of Star Wars games. I think most of those come pre-painted, but I think Star Wars Shatterpoint is the newest one that people were excited about a little bit ago.
Cool. So, and you mentioned you sold your cards to get started. So how did you guys get started? What got you into, hey, I want to open up a shop?
What motivated you to do that then?
So I think a lot of nerds have this dream of opening a game store, right? And I don't think Christopher was any different. But all of the game stores in the county closed down for one reason or another. They weren't successful. And there were some really great board game and card game stores here in the county. And they closed. And Christopher first started by going to his friends to see if someone was willing to open a game store because someone needed to do it. Someone needed to be there for the community. And no one was willing to take that chance. And so Christopher decided that he had to be that person.
Yay! And the county thanks you.
Yeah, so Livingston County's always had a game store in it. I could list off the names of previous game stores, but that would be boring and only matter to a couple of people. But just for as long as I've been playing games, Livingston County has had a game store. I grew up in Milford, and so this was like the closest area for me to come to. And I just knew that this was an area that needed that community center, and that the player base here could support it.
Right.
Right. That makes sense. How long ago was it that you opened? It seems like it's been a bit.
Been open for just over 4 years now.
Yeah, November will be 5 years.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, and we're actually, it's funny you mentioned the gaming stores. I think it's the building next to us or this building.
I think it's this building.
This
that
building
we're
used to be a
taping
gaming
recording
store.
for.
Yeah, this used to be Nerdageddon.
Nerdageddon, yeah. So
It's just changed quite a bit, you saw.
yes. But the nice thing is with a gaming store, you mentioned community. Unlike a lot of other stores, a game store is really 100% a community.
Absolutely. This is weird because Rose is a lawyer in her real life. We had talked about the possibility of starting the business as a nonprofit initially and how that could potentially work, because the idea was always that we wanted this gaming space. We wanted this place for people to come exist and have their third place. Third place is this idea that you have home and work, and then you have a third place that you go that you can like be yourself, where you don't have the expectations of those other things. We were like, we just want the retail side of this to support the community side of this. And so like the idea of selling things was just initially to like keep this thing alive. And I think it still is in a lot of ways.
Got you.
Nice. Yeah, because, I look over inside the store when I go and shop. We were over there over Christmas buying stuff for our sons. But I love that wide open space and the tables. And so what types of events do you guys host there?
So a lot of the events we host are tournaments of one kind or another, and those have a paid entry. We have some that fire on a weekly basis, or more likely, if you're in on the weekends, we have rotating like semi-regular events. So if Magic has a new set, there'll be a pre-release, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks here. Or we'll do a big Warhammer tournament, and we can get quite a few people in there.
I think one of the coolest events that we run is our Starter Saturdays. And we run those every other weekend. And they start at 10 o'clock. And they're for kids. So they're specifically designed to get kids into games and to help them start developing their own community. We teach Pokemon, we teach Magic, we teach Yu-Gi-Oh! We have Dungeons and Dragon tables. We've done painting events before. Sometimes we just have big parties. But it's a way that we can get the younger crowd in and playing their games. And it is really, really successful. We have dozens of kids there every single week.
That's fantastic. So you
Every
figure
other
kids
week.
today, are on their phones or, on their computers and video games. So this is at least, and that's what we found with our kids of, an activity that allowed them to interact with other kids and
allowing them to have that entry into it, because, before internet and everything else, to see someone playing D&D, it was like, well, what are you doing there? And it's a niche, because unless you interacted with someone that knew about it and had bought the books and everything to be able to do it, your entry is a little bit different than, hey, I'm showing up on a Saturday morning and they're going to teach me how to do this.
I think so many parents are eager to get their kids into, especially Dungeons and Dragons now. Dungeons and Dragons is really having a moment because so many people want their kids to get away from electronic devices and do something creative. And Dungeons and Dragons is definitely that outlet. And a lot of people have seen Stranger Things or something in that nature, which prominently features Dungeons and Dragons. And they're like, this could be fun for my kid or even me to do. And so we've had a lot of people come in over the years and get involved in the scene, either at home or in our organized groups.
great.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about Dungeons and Dragons, especially for kids, is that it is such an enjoyable way to spend your time, but also it tricks them into developing math skills and literacy skills
There you go.
just along the way that they're not expecting and they don't realize. And I think to a lesser extent that's true with things like Magic and Pokemon.
Okay.
But I think Dungeons and Dragons is really like a creative outlet, but also like this way to develop those skills that are really important.
That's true. There is a lot of skills. There's a lot more math involved in that than you would ever think.
Some critical thinking skills, I imagine, and problem solving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, back when I learned how to play Dungeons and Dragons, you had to do algebra to figure out if you could hit a monster. And they've simplified the game a lot, and that's for the better. But there's definitely unintentional math learning going on.
That's a win.
That is a win. That is a win. In the events and such, we also saw that you have a board game day, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Christopher.
Board game day is like a loosely organized but set aside day so that people can come in with their own board games, or we have a small selection of board game library games that people can take off the shelf and just play in the store.
Okay. And is there a fee for them to come in and do that?
No.
No. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're definitely focused on making our space a safe one for the community. And so when we run events, our table space can be a little more limited and we charge for those events. But any other time, our tables are free for people to come in and use. So even if it's not scheduled board game day, we have people coming in and playing games, bringing games that they want to play with their families, or borrowing games from us to play with new people, all for free.
Well, and what I love about that is, one, you have these very intensive, complicated games sometimes that you need to find someone else that has the same interest to play that game. Because we all have board games at home that our kids pull out and you're like, I am not playing Settlers of Catan today. I do not. I have things happening in my life. But to be able to go and you're meeting new people, you're creating new friendships, and you're able to also play with different people that have different skill sets that maybe you see what you're doing in a different light, be it Magic, be it Warhammer, D&D, all of those things.
Room to spread out. Because,
Yes.
in most real lives, like, okay, just to clear the kitchen table becomes an event. But then for a game like that, you can't leave it out. It'd be nice to have something like that. It's what a great resource, an idea that we didn't even realize was out there.
Yeah, we wanted to provide a place not only for people to buy games that they are interested in, but have a place for them to play them as well.
Great to promote that and encourage that, and especially for youth. is
Yeah,
wonderful.
absolutely.
Cool. And one of the other things I want to talk about, I know that gaming and Magic, Pokemon, D&D, and all that is for a lot of people, it's a collector-based type thing. So what do you say to collectors out there about your store, or just collectors in general?
Any advice to offer them?
I think a lot of people that are adults and collectors pretty much know what's going on. They protect their cards. And so the most common piece of advice I give is normally to younger people. You want to sleeve your cards, because if you are spending money on something, you want to make sure that investment is protected. Otherwise, it cannot appreciate in value. If you're trying to collect something, you want to make sure it stays in good condition. We have he's not 3 anymore.
He's 5.
We have a 5-year-old at home, and the first time he got Pokemon cards in his hand, he took them and he went, I made a taco.
Oh, no.
Folded it right in half.
Wow.
And so
Thankfully, we were smart enough not to give him valuable Pokemon cards. He was.
But we see kids all the time bringing in damaged cards, and they want to sell these cards because they understand that they're worth money. And so they can get other cards. And their parents are like, yeah, show them what you've got. And we take a look at them, and we have to unfortunately explain to kids that their cards aren't worth money because they didn't take care of them.
Right.
And that's a harsh lesson. But I think the other hard lesson is there are counterfeit Pokemon cards. And really.
It's a big problem.
Wow.
And so a lot of times what will happen is I presume, an uncle or a grandparent or something will see a really good deal on Amazon or on Wish.com or on Temu for Pokemon cards. And it's like, get 100 Pokemon cards for $10. And they'll buy them, and they are not real.
Wow.
They are not designed to look remotely real. But like if you don't know what you're doing, if you've never seen a Pokemon card before, you get them in your hands, you're like, these are Pokemon cards.
Right.
You give them to a young kid, they think these are Pokemon cards. They go out and trade them on the playground or after school or whatever, and then they bring them in. And the absolute worst part of the job is telling a kid that this card they have that they've protected that they think is worth money is not real.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I know all of the kids out there and all that, our kids had Pokemon cards when they were little kids, and they got thrown in with all the other toys and everything. And now 15 years later, they're going through stuff and they're like, is this worth something that's ripped on the side and everything else? So, we had the same thing we were going through stuff, and our kids found Garbage Pail Kid cards. They're like, we're going to look these up. Are these worth money? We're like, not in the condition they're in. They're not worth any money.
Yeah, I think going back to protecting your cards, that's absolutely the most important thing, though. Like, if you think that something is like worth keeping, you should keep it protected.
Right.
I guess I'm going to elaborate on other pieces of advice for collectors, if you don't mind.
Sure.
A lot of people will buy into Pokemon cards as an investment, and something I learned about comics a long time ago is the people that end up having the most valuable comic collections aren't the people that buy comics to invest in them. They're the people that buy comics because they love the comic they're reading. Now, this doesn't translate exactly to cards because you doesn't take long to read a card.
Right.
Yeah.
But people that are like trying to invest in something for like speculating on something just because they think it can be appreciate, like oftentimes get left behind in this market because they'll lose interest if the thing doesn't appreciate quick enough.
Right.
And so that's why a fan of the product will oftentimes have the more valuable collection because they stuck with it through like the good and bads of it.
Right.
And it's a thing of passion. So
have a more discerning eye, right?
Right. And they're like to equate that to Magic, kind of. They're getting the cards because they're using the cards and they're playing the game, right?
Yeah.
And then they start to, because they love the game, they're continuing to collect that. I know our son is spending a lot of money on Magic cards, and he had to teach me how to play Commander because when I played it, there was no Commander. Mm-hmm. So it was a different game that I played almost than what he's playing in some aspects of it.
Commander's actually a very interesting phenomenon. It's originally a fan-made format, and normal Magic, as you know, it is played 1v1.
Right.
Commander is played in a free-for-all setting.
Right.
And you have certain rules and restrictions. I won't go too in depth for the listeners, but it is definitely a casual way, like a beer and pretzels kind of way of playing the game.
Right.
As opposed to where normal Magic is like, we're going to sit down and face off against each other and see who can do the best.
Right.
And a lot of times Commander is just about like sitting back and having a good time with your friends or your family.
Yep.
And just having this activity we're doing as we're talking, as we're engaging around it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in that, it's remarkable because Wizards then, the manufacturers of Magic the Gathering, then adopted it and have really capitalized on Commander as a format and as a product line. I'm getting a little too in the weeds on this one, I think. But yeah, so the most common way to play Magic is definitely like sitting around with your friends now and having a good time, as opposed to when I learned and when you learned, it was like facing off against someone and seeing who had the better deck.
Exactly, yeah. But that's one of the things I find unique about the gaming community and about these types of things. It's that the individuals can actually have an impact on it, right? So if you go even to D&D and such and some of the rule changes they've made over the years and the different things, it's because of people passionate actually playing it, and then that kind of spreading and that impacting it. Again, going back to the community that you guys have, because I'm assuming that you guys have like a steady core of regulars that like when they come in, you know who they are, you know what games they're playing, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have one customer that we affectionately refer to as the employee of the month.
I think he's at the store more often than Christopher or I are at
Wow.
this point.
Wow.
That's
But we have
amazing.
some really, really great customers, a lot of people that make our community great at the store.
And it's so great because like not only are we passionate about the community that we're fostering and a part of, but so many of the people that are in the community want to see that thing exist. And so like the reality of retail in brick and mortar is like anything we sell, you can get online cheaper. That's just like how the world works now. If you want to spend the time, you can get a good deal on something. But we have so many people that understand that like this is a special thing that we're working on here. And you can't go to Amazon and have someone sit down and listen about your Dungeons and Dragons character or suggest to you why you should get this book or like help you with your Warhammer army or help you with your magic deck or something like that. And so there's so many people, and myself included, and I thought that like people would want this thing. People would want this tactile experience. That's like what we offer.
A
Right.
personal connection then. You know, it's the experience out of it. And I feel like certainly my whole life I've been around people with these interests, you know, even though I don't personally delve into that part of it. But I love the social part of it because frequently there's kids that don't have those social skills. And so this is, like you said, I like that third place. It's a safe place to go that, you know, even through generations, you know, there's these games that are being played that were there when you were young or I were young. We met in a bookstore, by the way.
Yeah, so
Both
we worked at a
in
bookstore.
And so there were some of those things offered.
Yes, I was so happy when the bookstore decided to start having the magic cards because then I could get an employee discount on it.
Oh yeah.
So that helped out quite a bit.
Yeah, it made a difference. But,
Yes.
you know, it just, like you said, it's the experience. And, you know, I had heard a small business in Howell talk about that, you know, here they, you know, person called, yes, we have that product. This is how much it is. Oh, I can get it on Amazon for $2 less. And it's like, you know, these small businesses are really fighting hard. And it's up to us as a community to support the small businesses. It's not about saving a buck. It's
Right.
about building up
And
our community.
and so I think like one of the reasons we've been successful is because the value proposition that we add to something is much more visible than like a clothing boutique store or like I actually consider us a boutique store in a lot of the senses, but we have that play space that you were talking about. And if you've never been in the store, it's just like 14 tables that are 5 feet long and 2.5 feet wide with comfortable chairs. And, but yeah, people can identify like, this is what I'm paying a little extra for. Yet, yes, I can get magic cards cheaper online, but here I can get them at hopefully a competitive price and I can open them up on these tables. I can talk with the people in the store.
Exactly.
And that's a huge value. You can't put dollars behind that.
Right.
Because without businesses like yours, where will those people gather? How will they have that opportunity to have that experience?
Yep. And you guys have a great location. They are located at Grand River and Latson. But you guys actually have a second location as well, right?
Yeah, we opened a second location in Ann Arbor almost 2 years ago now. And so we do almost the exact same thing there. We have about the same amount of play space, maybe a little bit more in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
Our store's a little bit bigger there, but delivering the same kind of thing. And because Ann Arbor also didn't have a game store, Ypsilanti had a couple great game stores, but the west side of Ann Arbor was kind of a game store desert for a long time. And so after seeing the community here grow and develop, we wanted to bring that to Ann Arbor too.
Right. And there's a difference between a game store and a comic book shop.
Yes.
Right. So what's for those listening, because I think a lot of people think they're the same thing, or they just think the comic book shop they see in the Big Bang Theory. Right.
So traditionally, I think those things have been the same thing. A lot of times comic book stores became game stores kind of like unintentionally or unwillingly a lot of the times because there was so much money in gaming. Comic book stores definitely are set up a little different. I think the perception is that they're dirtier, which is not necessarily true. But if you have a bunch of books sitting around collecting dust, that can be true.
Right.
But comic book stores will tend to have collectibles like Funko Pops are a modern collectible that comic book stores will have, of course, comic books, and other like pop culture related things, sometimes gaming too. Where us as a game store, we initially tried to carry comics, but it was not something that I'm passionate about. It's not something that we had a following for. And so it was hard to do. It lost us a bunch of money. And when COVID came, we just dropped it. So a game store is, for me, we don't do anything electronic. I guess we haven't said that so far in this podcast, but
Good thing to note.
we don't do anything with video games. We get calls about it. Y'all getting PS5s a lot, and we don't.
Right.
We never did, but so yeah, we offer board games, and the typical board game we mentioned, Settlers of Catan. I think that's oftentimes the base level of game that we offer.
Right.
So you can find Settlers of Catan at some big box stores now, but we definitely offer games that are more complicated, more in depth than that, but also games that are more casual than that. One of our best selling games is called Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. I think that one's gotten some mass market appeal now, so some people may recognize that title, but it's just a small box game. It plays very quickly. A lot of people like it. But we have display cases for cards, and we probably have 6 display cases of just cards in our store. Individual cards. We have booster packs, a sealed pack of cards, a box of sealed packs of cards, and then board games, miniatures in boxes, and all sorts of accessories, boxes to hold your cards and sleeves to put your cards in, and binders and pages to put those in.
Right, yeah, because there's so much that goes into it. I know our son has all the sleeves and everything, and then he has a strict no drink policy while they're playing and everything, which had a huge kerfuffle over the holidays, but they didn't end up damaging any cards, which was great for him. But I know that there's all those things that go into it.
If there were cards on this table, I would insist that everyone's drink one on the floor.
Yep, see, there you go. And then, with the games and such, because I know before we went to recording, I was talking about the fact that, I taught our kids how to play Axis and Allies, which was a very big involved game. And when I was 17, 18, 19, if we had a place that we could play it rather than taking over somebody's basement for hours and all of that,
the parents would probably be a lot happier about it, right?
And I think that's what kind of differentiates shops like the Upkeep from like traditional comic book stores, is that place to play and develop a community. So comic book stores generally are places where you can go and get the things that you like and enjoy, but you're not sharing that experience with anyone. You're not sharing that with other people who are interested in the same thing that you are. And I think that's something that we can offer with like our play space.
That's just fantastic, because just that element it's wonderful.
And I was gonna ask about your guys' website. So can people look up values on your website or any of that?
Yes and no. If we don't have a card in stock, then no. Okay. But if you, and I wanted to get to this, so if you are I have a bunch of Pokemon cards or Magic cards somewhere in your closet or attic or whatever, you dig those out. You can definitely use the internet to find prices on that. But looking up every individual card can be very cumbersome. And so luckily we have people in our store that just know what cards are worth. And so you could bring those in, and if you ask for an appraisal, a lot of the times if we have the opportunity to offer make an offer on those cards too, we'll just appraise them on the spot. But if you were to look up cards that you wanted to buy or potentially wanted to sell, you could type them into our site. We have a special section for each store's inventory under TCG singles on our website.
Awesome.
Yeah, so our website does have all of the cards that we have in our stores are listed on our website. So people can put together lists of cards that they want to purchase. They don't have to stand around and wait for us to find those cards when they come in. They can just have them ready to go when they get there. We also post the rate at which we buy cards online too, so people can look and compare and see if they want to bring in cards to sell to us or to trade in. For store credit, they can get those prices on our website too.
Now, how does that work? So if they have something that is valuable that they did take care of, Because you had mentioned store credit versus getting money for.
Yeah, so they can bring them in, and our employees, who by all accounts are the most fantastic people alive. Our staff
They're
is
very friendly.
Our
Anytime
staff
we're in.
is amazing. They'll take a look at the cards and determine how much they're worth, and then we can make an offer on those for store credit or a slightly lower amount for cash, so you get more if you trade it in for other stuff in the
That
store.
makes sense.
Yeah, but for most collections, we can offer both of those options to the community. So if people need cash quickly for some reason, they can trade in their cards, or if they're, a lot of times we have people who jump around between games, right? Like they were into Magic and now they're not into Magic, they're into Warhammer, or now they're into Lorcana, is a crazy new card game that everybody is into. So they can
Disney based.
Oh,
Neat.
they can trade those things in and get something new and exciting.
wow. And your staff is so knowledgeable, and, we've been in there before where I'm talking to them about board games, right? And I could say, well, this is the type of game that my kids like to play, or this is what they're playing. And they'll say, well, what about this? Because they've played the games and they know the games, right?
Yeah, and that's definitely something that we can offer that like Amazon or a big box retailer can't, right? Like you can't go to a big grocery store and have someone explain to you, like, I like this game, what's another game that I would like? And our staff are just so incredible at and knowledgeable about all of the games that we carry.
Very consultative experience. And we found over the holidays that there were unusual games and unusual gift items.
Yeah. We got a great Rear Window board game that we haven't played yet from you guys, but I saw it and it's a movie that I love, and it was right in the back. I'm like, oh my God, I have to have this. I've never seen this ever before.
It was cool.
I have not played that game, but I love Rear Window. I love Alfred Hitchcock. And we initially got that game for free from a retailer kit. And I'm like, this game can't be good. It's based off of Rear Window, which is a 1960s classic. But the reviews on the game are very good.
Right.
So I've been thinking about picking up a copy to play myself. But as we've discussed before the show, there's just no time sometimes when you own a business.
Right.
Well, one of my favorite sayings, and I did get it from a friend of ours years ago, but owning your own business is fantastic. You get to work any 80 hours a week you want. You get to pick them, all 80.
It's very true. And thankfully we have a pretty big staff now that really takes a lot off our plate. Between the two stores, I think we have 19 employees.
Wow.
So we were really fortunate because there just aren't enough hours in the day to get everything done.
When we opened the store, we just imagined that it was going to be me sitting at a desk for eternity. And the response from the community was so powerful that, like, we hired our first employee within a couple months. We hired our second employee within a month after that. Then COVID happened. But we actually grew over COVID. Collectibles went crazy. Pokemon cards almost quadrupled in value a lot of the times. Lots of games like Warhammer and Magic people could play in their house, so people bought that stuff. But the response from people, not only in the community, but people that outside the community that appreciate what this is, has been so extraordinary, and in Howell especially, that it's amazing that we never dreamed that the stores would be this successful.
Right. Well, the clientele for a gaming store, is
Very loyal.
very, very loyal. And what I like to think about it, because I have some friends that are into it and everything, is it's all the passion they had when they were 15, 16, 17, with the money behind it now.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons that Pokemon cards went so crazy over COVID. People were, a lot of times isolated. And I think this is going to get a little philosophical, but people just wanted something to make them happy. And something from your, like, I'm as old as Ash from Pokemon. We were the same age. And so I grew up with Pokemon too. And there's people my age. I'm 37 now, 36, one of those two. People my age and younger and older that grew up with Pokemon cards, and they saw YouTubers opening Pokemon cards or showing off Pokemon cards when they're stuck at home. And like, I remember that. And so they just buy a couple that they liked. and it got out of hand a lot of the time.
Right.
But like the value of just having something in your hand that makes you happy, like, is worth a lot more than I think we thought before the pandemic.
Right.
I think a lot of the times now, people, like, concert tickets, of course, are super expensive now. I saw the price of the Lions playoff games
my
from the
goodness,
last time
yeah.
they were in the playoffs. They were $30.
Right.
I don't think you could get into the building for $30. I don't think you can park for $30.
parking.
Yeah, you can't. No parking.
Exactly.
Right.
So the value of an experience has gone way up. The value that we not only attach to it, but we're willing to pay for it.
Right.
And so I forget how I got here.
No. It's a great
And it made
point.
me think of in terms of real estate, everything went bananas because then all of a sudden where you lived mattered. Once you got trapped there, then it made a difference. And to tie back to your point, it's what makes you happy. So whether it's where you live or the games you play, the things you do, the items you purchase, if they don't, toss off to Marie Kondo, right? If they don't give you joy, then why are you spending time and money and resources on them?
And I think that definitely, like, you bring that up to real estate, and I think people, like, with their living situations, with their jobs even, like, if people were stuck in a job that they hated, I think over COVID especially, people are like, why am I doing this?
Right.
When I could be making $17 at fast food, like, why am I working at a retail store that pays me $15 that has no future?
Right.
Or why am I breaking my back doing factory work for $12 an hour or something?
Do what you love. Right?
And we opened in 2019, so just before everything went crazy. I think a lot of people started their own businesses. I think I remember reading that 2021 had the highest number of business licenses issued of any year.
Wow.
Because so many people were like, I can be miserable anytime I want.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is my opportunity to, like, try to do something on my own.
Right. That makes them happy. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, you guys thrive on the human interaction. And I think that's something people crave out of COVID as well. And I think you guys serve a amazing purpose within that to give that sense of community where they're getting that interaction in something that they love at the exact same time.
And the crazy thing about the game store experience is, while we value it so much and we have grown so much, the level of events that we're seeing is a fraction of what it used to be.
That's interesting.
So, like, people are excited about it. People are happy to be there, and we're making money. But there's so much more potential in that realm.
Right.
That's good to know.
Well, there's room to grow.
Yeah. Now, if there is one thing that you wanted people to take away from this interview about Upkeep Games that we haven't touched on or discussed, what one point would you want to make sure that people know or are aware of?
We've touched on the idea of community a lot in this conversation, but I think that, like, the knowledge that there is a community for everyone at the store. We have so many different games that we offer and so many different types of things, and it's just growing all of the time. We have started Lorcana in August, and we routinely get 20 to 25 people showing up every week for that now. There's a new Star Wars trading card game coming out in a couple of months that we're excited for. But there's so many different types of games, Dungeons and Dragons and miniatures games and cards games that could appeal to anyone, and their home could be at the Upkeep.
That is awesome. And so if people are looking, again, it's at Latson and Grand River, right across Latson from Meyer, in the same plaza with, on the corner.
We call it the Lover's Lane.
The Lover's Lane Plaza. That's okay. That's what everybody notices because it's big and on the corner, but it's right in there. How do people find you online?
So they can go to our website, theupkeepgames.com.
Okay.
We're also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
We pretend to be on those too.
But the best way of getting in touch with the community building aspect of our stores is to go to our website and then join our Discord. We have Discord communities for both of our stores, and that's a way that all of our customers can talk to each other and plan meetups for games and learn about new games, and it's a great resource for them.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Great. Well,
And If I may say one more thing, if the idea of like we've talked, because you guys have gaming experience, we've talked at a level that might be above some people. Like, if you are curious about what the store is and what we do, please come in. Any of our staff would be happy to explain it to you. You can take a look around and not talk to anyone. That's fine too. Until you know that this world exists, it is very strange to imagine that it exists. Like, there is really a world of where people just go and hang out and play games. There's stores like this all over the country.
But yours, what I love about it's bright, it's clean, and it's friendly.
We did want to make sure that it was appealing to people.
Yeah, it definitely
we
is.
started and the other piece is we wanted it to be very family friendly. We started the store when our son was just a little guy. He was under a year old, and I wanted a place where I felt comfortable bringing him, and that doesn't always line up with like the stereotypical game store. So having a place that was bright and clean and I wasn't uncomfortable with my 1-year-old crawling around on the floor was really important to me.
Well, and that's a really important aspect because you have people, they're younger than driving and their parents are bringing them in there. And it has to feel like a place that they feel comfortable with and safe with. Because unfortunately, if you look 20, 30 years ago, it always didn't have the best reputation. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
That was the roller rinks.
That was the roller rinks as well, yes. So, but no, thank you guys so much for coming today. We've learned a ton about your store. I would advise anyone out there listening to check them out and just to stop by. Go in, very friendly people, a great store to go to, and we encourage everyone to pop in, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Go check it out.
Yeah, so thank you guys for coming. Please check us out online. Check out our podcast. You can find anywhere you can find podcasts, YouTube as well, or just go to welcometolivingston.com. So thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you. And welcome to Livingston.